Welcome to The View from Highland Park. Today's topic is going to be vaping and e-cigarettes. And my co-host, I'm glad to welcome again, and my partner in crime, I call her, is Suzanne Conman, host of her own show, Conman's Roundtable. Welcome today, Suzanne.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, yes. Well,
we have a good show.
We have a very good show, and I think this might be the only show where we both agree on the same subject.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. And first of all, I would like to take a time out and thank our crew for appearing today. Ron Levitsky, our wonderful director, and Sandra Phillips, our wonderful camera person. Thank you again so much. Okay, do you want to start a little bit?
Yes, yes I will, because I want to read something that I think is really, really important, because there's a real big lawsuit coming and filing on the Juul lawsuit on e-cigarettes. And it's not just Juul cigarettes, but a lot of the cigarette manufacturers often advertise their products as being safer, alternative to cigarettes and free of many harmful chemicals found in cigarettes. However, what most e-cigarette companies fail to warn consumers is of their product contains diacetyl. It's a chemical that, if vaporized, is highly toxic and can have detrimental health effects to those who are exposed to its vapors. The most common injury associated with diacetyl vapor exposure is it's a bronchitis. It's a type of bronchitis which is called popcorn lung. It's a rare condition that damages your lungs, small airways, making it difficult to breathe and causing individuals to experience aggressive coughing. They just can't stop coughing. If untreated, it can degenerate into a respiratory collapse, which can be fatal. And there has been several deaths related to e-cigarettes. And also, a lot of people don't know this, that it's been marketed as healthy, but each pod contains 59 milligrams of nicotine per milliliter of liquid, which is nearly equivalent to a pack of cigarettes. And a lot of people don't realize that when people start to, use their e-cigarettes, it's like having a whole package of cigarettes. Can you imagine that? It's bewildering.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just wanted to read a little bit, quoting Time magazine article, which just came very in time, as we say. The magnitude of the teen vaping problem began to emerge last November when the FDA announced that almost 21% of high school students had vaped during the previous month, 78% increase over the year before. That number jumped again this year to 27.5%, meaning that more than 4 million American teenagers will vape regularly, according to preliminary reports from all federal health officials. The 2018 National Youth Tobacco Survey found that about 3.5% of high school students, which is more than 525,000 teenagers, vaped every or almost every day. And this is an alarming problem.
It really is.
And they are appealing to younger teenagers.
I was just going to tell you.
Preteens.
It's preteens.
Yes.
It's middle school. It's not just high school. It's middle school. And I know my own grandson was doing it.
I know you would tell me that, and you were very troubled by hearing this.
Yes, and since then he's read a lot of the same articles, and he told me that he stopped doing it. But what I'm worried about more than that he did it was the effects of what could be in his lungs, because I don't know how long he was doing it. And we also, my stepdaughter has been, and she probably still is vaping. And there's a lot of things that have come out, which is severe addiction, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks or heart problems, lung or respiratory failure, mental health or behavioral issues, nicotine poisoning, and pregnancy complication and birth defects. Because if somebody is pregnant, Pam, if somebody's pregnant, and they're vaping, what has it done to the fetus? And seizures is known for it, suicidal thoughts or attempts, stroke, and other complications. And this is something, I mean, I cannot believe, I had no idea till we decided to do a show on vaping what I was going to find, and I'm finding such horrible, horrific stuff that it's so bad that the manufacturer like Juul, and I think that Philip Morris is also responsible here because they are also part of the Juul. I don't know if they contributed money or how they're part of it, but some of these cigarette companies want everybody back on cigarettes because, at school you see very little people smoking these days, and you see even our children, teenagers, grandchildren, you don't see smoking, but they made vaping because of, chocolate, coffee, bubblegum flavors. They have an array of so many different flavors that it's enticing our teens.
Not only is it enticing, it's kind of like a social stigma that kind of thing with smoking. You were ostracized because you smoked. You had to leave the building. You had to go so far, 20 feet, by an entrance, and everything was prohibited in so many different places.
And the smoke smells on
and
your
it
clothes.
Smells all over you. But then Juul came about, which actually started, is the corporation, as we call, under the radar. And I don't know if we can show this, but this is what a kind of an e-cigarette looks like. I don't know if we can get can focus in a little bit. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like, and then I'll go back.
There are different packagings too.
Many different packaging. Right. A smart inhaler. It has no temperature setting or start buttons. It's a simple inhale triggers the vaporizer. So this is kind of like a vaping, more of the vaping kind of a thing. Easy to hide look. It resembles a flash drive. So it's a very well orchestrated piece that, it doesn't look like a cigarette. You put it in your purse.
Yeah,
it's about the length of a cigarette, and it has a discrete vapor. The exhausted aerosol doesn't leave any smell that lingers like cigarettes. And again, we're talking about flavors containing liquid nicotine, glycerin, and other chemicals. And it comes from everything to bubble gum, to mango, to creme de mint. Which, as we speak, different states are out banning the flavored, and it would only be a type of a menthol.
And I was
more like a traditional cigarette.
Yeah, and I also found a study published in the American Journal of Physiology, which was conducted by medical investigators at the University of Athens in Greece, found that when vaporized, the chemical flavorings and additives can cause considerable inflammation in the lungs. According to researchers, even short-term e-cigarettes can induce significant inflammatory lung damage. And also that Dr. Folan, she also with her comment, these flavorings and additives were deemed safe for consumption, but tests were conducted on long-term effects of inhaling these chemicals in a vaporized state is really, really bad. And some of these chemicals or these flavorings, when vaporized, it enhances it even more so, and it makes it even more dangerous. Mm-hmm. And this is something, so there's a lot of studies. Pam, what I really can't understand how the FDA, how these cigarettes originally got on the market. I mean, even on cigarettes, it has warning from the Surgeon General that smoking can cause cancer, lung cancer, and everything. How did these things go through? How did they get through without without being supervised, and how it was and tested? Usually these things are tested on mice, or they're tested on something before they get to market. It shows that there was no testing, and now, of course, testing is coming out after the fact, after our kids and grandchildren have been exposed to such horrific garbage. I can't think of any other word for it, and I am so angry because if it caused any health issues on my own grandchildren after using this, because you don't find out sometimes later on, maybe another year or two, what the after effects are going to be.
Absolutely. But as quoting time again, we went to Juul. Juul is the kind of like on the forefront of electronic cigarettes. Very interesting, their marketing strategy. Juul's empire has always been built on asking forgiveness rather than permission. In 2015, the company launched with what its now notorious Vaporized campaign, which was called patently youth-oriented. In 2019 Stanford White Paper, authored by Jackler, colorful ads featured youthful models wearing crop tops, ripped jeans, and flaunting their jewels. And then what they did is they also went into the schools, as I read the article further, and no one was really allowed to do that, not to my knowledge, and develop classroom curriculums, both ostensibly meant to educate kids about healthy lifestyles and nicotine addiction. So by doing that, they gained credibility among the teenagers, preteens.
But why wasn't it tested? I mean, if it was tested, who was testing these things? You know, I think that whatever lab they were using, they're to me as guilty as the Juul. And I know that I have a paper here with filing a Juul lawsuit. If you're considering filing a Juul lawsuit, you already signed a contract, and there are a few steps that you need to take in order to file a lawsuit against Juul. You need to show your medical records, personal accounts. If you have any injuries, you have to go make sure a doctor, is accounting for this, and everything you need to document. I don't understand how something like this passed. And I know when the first one that in my neighborhood, we live in the Highwood area, which is right next door to Highland Park, how that vaporizing store ever got into into our area. When I saw that and found out what they were doing, I was in shock. I didn't know how our aldermen and how this passed through in our own area, how vaporizing store was allowed into it. So there's so many. You go down to neighborhood after neighborhood, and you see all these vaporizing stores that are selling these e-cigarettes with all these different flavors. I mean, it's horrible, and I don't know what we're going to do. How are they going to? I would like to see all of those businesses, and I never say this on air, but I would like to see all these businesses out of business.
Well, I don't think they're opening up at the rate that they used to open up. I mean, every municipality is really
I'm wondering if they're not opening.
Yeah, changing.
But how to get them
what
out?
has happened,
how to get
right.
them out of your out of your area?
I think it's all being done locally on the local level.
Yeah.
Yes. So just a little more to add to it.
Well, I think also, I think the federal, I think
federal level.
President Trump he also mentioned he wants to get rid of the, they want to do it on a federal level too.
He wants to ban all, at least, as we speak, everything is changing all the time.
Yes.
So he wants to ban any flavor for vaping or, products.
But I think vaping itself, forget about the products, forget about the bubble gum and all those flavors. I think every one of those businesses need to be put out of business.
Well, it's a percentage of vapors. Adults, it's only 3%. High schoolers is 28%. And they're drawn in part, it says, by the addictive nicotine. As you mentioned, one Juul pod delivers the same amount of nicotine as a pack of 20 cigarettes.
A pack of 20
cigarettes.
Yes. So, it's unreal.
Yeah, and it could lead to long-term usage. 28% of teen vapors said they had used an e-cigarette on at least 20 of the past 30 days. So we do finding this quite addictive.
I'm wondering another thing that I'd like to talk about maybe with you is that why are they using it? I mean, why are kids going to something like that? I mean, why put yourself in harm's way, medically, and why would they do that? Why do they need to smoke these things, and what do they get out of this stuff?
I don't know, but just go into deeper, at length about it. When someone lights a cigarette, tobacco mixes with oxygen, this is again quoting the article, creating inhalable smoke as well as about 7,000 byproducts, around 70 of which are known to cause cancer. E-cigarettes operate under the premise that this combustion, not nicotine, is to blame for most of the health problems associated with smoking, which includes cancer, heart problems, and lung disease. Instead of burning tobacco, Juul heats a potent liquid cocktail of nicotine salts, flavoring the compounds with propylene glycol and glycerin to create an inhalable vapor.
You know, there's some schools that have even taken, you know, the kids go into the bathroom and smoke, and they're taking, in some schools, I'm not sure what state, but they're taking the doors off of the
out of the washrooms because they're found right.
Yeah,
yes.
out of the toilets, individual
toilets. Right, which I have a problem with that because
yes, I do too.
You know, you really, we need privacy, and if we're doing something like that, it's an invasion of one's, you know, personal privacy, and that's a, you know, there should be laws governing that you cannot do that as well.
I just mentioned something about Philip Morris, and I found exactly what I wanted to read. The Illinois Juul lawsuit is filed against the e-cigarette manufacturer Juul Labs, along with Philip Morris Incorporated, which holds minority ownership in Juul. As similar cases continue to be brought to our attention, we expect similar filings to follow. But Philip Morris, which is a, you know, the known manufacturer of regular cigarettes, and because cigarettes aren't as popular as they used to be, they are now, that is why they went along with Juul Labs, which holds a minority ownership. And a lot of people aren't talking about this, they're just talking about Juul, but they also should be talking about Philip Morris, which is very, very shameful, because what are they, who are they, it's not, like you said before, only, you said 3% of adults.
Right, that's all adults.
They are really, these cigarettes, these e-cigarettes are being put toward for children, not toward adults. It has nothing to do with adults. Stop smoking. It's more toward children to get them to start with the e-cigarettes, and maybe they'll get them, you know, Philip Morris, maybe they'll get them back to smoking regular cigarettes.
Well, now they have, you know, taken action. Juul has hired, it says, a former Chobani executive who's joined the company in 2017 because the company just grew so tremendously, and now they're having obviously these legal problems. So what they're doing, obviously, is doing a campaign that there is an age restriction, that you have to be 21 years, and if they buy anything online or whatever, they have to prove that they are of age.
Yeah, but
right. It's a $10 million television campaign ad with testimonials from adult users that it has helped them transition or cessation of smoking.
Yeah, but what happens if, you know, like kids used to do with alcohol? They would find somebody that was of age, and they would give them money, and then they would go into the store.
But that's against the law. I mean, the person who would be doing that, helping benefit an underage person, you know, it is against the law.
Well, what would be the age? 21?
21.
Okay, but what if somebody, their best friend who isn't 21, and they buy it for them or bring it to their house or what have you? Who's going to stop that? Who's going to even notice? So, you know, you know, I think the idea of it, I'm just wondering if there's any way to, you know, I guess it's like alcohol and it's like regular cigarettes. Is it going to be around? Is it going to, because I think that this could be more dangerous. All the readings that both you and I have done on this subject, I think it looks worse than regular cigarettes.
Well, it's, you know, it's always debatable. It's how much is used in excess. But they said they have a strong presence, Juul, on Capitol Hill. They spent $2 million on lobbying so far this year, deploying more than 80 lobbyists to work on causes. They want the legal purchasing age for tobacco products to be 21, uniformity across all the states, and they're supporting for category-wide federal regulations on all e-cigarettes. So they are working very closely with the government to monitor and to keep themselves in business, but they don't want to cater to, you know, preteens and teens.
But they're doing it anyway. And, you know, I'm looking through all these complications, and, you know, cigarettes, we know, causes lung cancer, and they can get emphysema and stuff like that. that from cigarettes. But look what all that's that what happens when you vaporize. You not only there could be lung cancer, but there's other complications which cigarettes didn't have. Like they have stroke, suicidal thoughts and attempts. There's seizures. There's birth defects. There's nicotine poisoning, because once this nicotine is vaporized, it causes poisoning, mental health issues, heart attacks, of course, lung and respiratory failure. I'm looking through all this, Pam, and I see it's even worse than regular cigarettes. I think it's even the severity of this because of the vaporizing. Remember a regular cigarette, you smoke it, but this is vaporized, and once it's vaporized, it's much more potent. Because how could one think about it? One e-cigarette is equivalent to a whole pack of cigarettes. And
right.
How many cigarettes to a pack? Is about 20 cigarettes a pack. So they're smoking one e-cigarette or one vaporized
it's like smoking a pack.
That's right.
Yeah.
One is
and
smoking
if they do it twice a day, it's like 2 packs.
Like 2 packs
right.
of cigarettes.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and as we do our show, the following has been documented: 6 deaths so far from vaping, and 450 reported cases of severe lung illnesses. And what they're doing is, a lot were undetermined. They didn't know the cause of a lot of lung illnesses among younger people. So now they're re-looking at a lot of, even for last year, a lot of hospitalizations, a lot of pulmonary physicians are looking at, they didn't ask people if they were vaping. They didn't ask people if they were using e-cigarettes. It wasn't documented.
So people.
So they're relooking a lot of
So people
a lot of
young children,
a lot of hospitalizations,
and people are coming in with this, and they didn't even know. They probably didn't ask them if they may have said, "Do you smoke?" And a lot of kids don't see it as smoking. It's just getting the taste of a delicious
right. And a lot, there was always the element of they don't want to get in trouble or get anyone else in trouble as well.
Right. Or they didn't want to tell their parents
that's right,
that they're vaping as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another thing. It was kept hidden. And they were afraid maybe if they told their doctor would, even though doctors have to follow the HIPAA law. But I think at a certain age you could still, I think the doctor can break the HIPAA law if the child is under 18 years of age. If they see something that's really bad, if they see something that's suicidal, or, as a psychologist, and I saw people that they would say they're going to take their life, or they were going to take somebody else's life, the HIPAA law definitely.
It's reportable,
It's reportable, and you can break it. So if they saw some severe lung disease or some cardiovascular problems, I'm sure they could talk to the parents without their permission.
Well, things have changed. I know with the state of Illinois, they have I think around a 2-page, for all the primary care physicians and specialists, if they think this, person, it could be any age, is a victim of vaping or e-cigarettes, they have some type of a lung illness, there's a whole form to fill out, and then now it's going to be reported for the Center of Disease Control.
Exactly.
So we can monitor and know exactly what's happening. Before it wasn't documented, and no one was keeping records. We only assumed, we didn't know the number. No one can come back to Juul or any other companies that they were doing that harm.
And there's lawsuits. I think there's one of the law offices that are doing it right now for compensation of injuries. So there's just one law firm that I see right now, but I'm sure there's going to be many other lawsuits that are going to be coming in, and there's ways of filing a Juul lawsuit, which I recommend they do that as quick as possible. And I also think that the labs that they used, and either they didn't give them an adequate report of what before, in the trials, or did they not have trials? I really don't understand how they allowed e-cigarettes on the market without trials first. And if there were trials, why weren't those trials reported?
That's a good question, and I don't know. Like I said, it initially came out under the radar.
Really.
Somehow they got by.
Yeah, they got by.
And they're not. It's not just the United States, which I did want to let you know. Actually, the country with more store openings for vaping is United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
And probably the Scandinavian countries, because they've been really open about marijuana and all these other, they've been smoking marijuana. It's legal in Sweden for so many years. So I'm just wondering, they talk about marijuana. Marijuana is a lot. To me, I think that marijuana is, people had to go to jail because they sold marijuana and everything. It's probably a lot safer than these e-cigarettes.
I don't know. I just wanted to quote another article that I realized about data. Where are we? We're in CSU Global campus. No, that's not it. Okay. Well, this is another article written by Laura Jones. This is from the BBC.
Okay.
So this one says that and most e-cigarettes are purchased in store. So they are getting a communication with the store owner which ones to use. So it is a direct contact. And is vaping safe? In the U.S., Michigan has become the first state to ban flavored e-cigarettes following the reports of deaths and lung illnesses. Those affected had a median average age of 19. However, doctors, public health experts, and cancer charities in the United Kingdom, remember this is written by BBC, agree that based on current evidence, e-cigarettes carry a fraction of the risk of cigarettes. So actually they're coming out and saying e-cigarettes are probably a little bit safer than vaping.
Okay.
If it's used in moderation. And who are the people who vape according to, this is according to the House of Commons Research Library, again, this is the United Kingdom, 33% of the adults vape to stop smoking. This is United Kingdom, not United States. 11.5% ex-smokers now vape, and 10% of 11 to 18-year-olds who have tried vaping at least once. And globally, 41 million are vaping. And 7 countries have banned vaping altogether. So when you talk about Juul, this is not nationwide, but, of course, worldwide.
And it also says juuling is a huge problem for middle school and high school students. And a student said, when I walk into my local gas station, which is less than a mile from the local high school, there is a huge advertisement on the door of the door, and the juuling devices and pods are kept on the front counter instead of the back behind where the other tobacco products are located. I wondered, why is this allowed for these devices, which contains nicotine just like cigarettes? These devices are so small and hard to detect when used, it is making it even harder for adults to monitor. Not to mention, we have no idea what the long-term effects of using devices are on young people. It is truly scary, the speed at which the popularity of these devices have grown for our youth, explained Stacy Lawrence Smith, a concerned parent and public school educator. And you know that market shares are booming and it's exploding, and they stand alone as the kingpin of e-cigarettes. And so their market is, people are investing in this and shares on the market and are making loads of money. So investors probably want to keep it going.
Well, I didn't check the stock market, but we can always look it up after the show.
I know. But that's what it says,
thank you, Suzanne, and thank you for our crew, for Sandra and for Ron, for doing our show. Thank you for all the research that we've done today. And so as far as for vaping and for e-cigarettes, it looks like, they're going to be regulated.